Hello, everybody. It is November 4th, 2021. Welcome to the Ask Me Anything for the CrossFit Linchpin private track, the closed Facebook group. We do this every Thursday. Members submit questions, other members upvote them, and the most popular ones get answered live each week. So here we go. The most upvoted question is from Gabriella B., and it's regarding skipping workouts. So, basically, she says she's done a bunch of different training over the course of her life, and the question is, life can be tough, and sometimes you can't do the workout. With a classic program, and I believe she means non-CrossFit, with a classic program, you simply start where you left off, so you maintain the path that was intended. But with CrossFit, you have to skip the workout. How could you improve the puzzle if pieces are missing? Am I missing something on how CrossFit works? Excellent question. So, dissecting it a bit here before I launch into the answer, here's what I would say. So, great lead in. With a classic program, a non-CrossFit program, you simply start where you left off. So, with a non-CrossFit program, be it just a running program, just a bodybuilding program, just a powerlifting program, whatever it happened to be. Whatever those programs are, they're different than CrossFit. They're different than constantly varied functional movements and those other programs. While potentially beneficial and fruitful for whatever their desired outcome is, those programs are not producing the fittest people on earth. So right away, classic program, you can substitute that with compared to programs that are not producing the fittest people in the world, you do something different. That doesn't shock me that compared to those other programs, something different happens, and they're not producing the fittest people on earth. So right away, it's not a apples to apples comparison, and therefore it just kind of is what it is. It has to be taken with a grain of salt. But at the end, the main question is, if I skip a day and I don't make that day up, how am I getting the full benefit out of that? Why don't I just now push everything one day? You could, I guess, if you wanted to do that, and every time you get a day ahead, you could. It's certainly your choice, but I guess the point is that it's not necessary. Okay? And at the end, her question says, am I missing something about how CrossFit works? And potentially, yes. That's probably the shortest answer. So, what I will say is, if you really want to dive into this, because we took a good dive into this a while ago, go to Linchpin Conversations number 180. That was actually another Ask Me Anything from June 17th of 2021. Linchpin Conversations number 180. And the question covered in that AMA was, how can you improve a movement without doing it every week? And that's kind of the same mindset, right? And I think maybe we spoke deadlifting, for example. And because maybe she's thinking, I missed heavy deads this week, now I'm not going to make up these heavy deads. How is my training going to progress when I missed this critical piece? And certainly it would have been better if you had the opportunity to do the deadlifts. But for some reason, life got in the way. Now, that's the interesting thing about a CrossFit program. So like I said, go back, listen to 180. In a traditional program or a classic program, such as Gabriella mentions, let's say that you deadlift every week, okay? You deadlift every single week, or fill in the blank. You do pull-ups every week. You do 800-meter repeats every week. Whatever, pick your poison. We'll just say deadlift. I deadlift every week, and therefore my deadlift has improved. Well, that doesn't seem shocking, right? You just told me that you deadlift every week. You would expect that you would improve at what you're doing all the time, right? Because repeated exposure to the stimulus ideally will lead to getting better at whatever that thing is that you're touching with frequency. What's confusing about a CrossFit program is that we don't deadlift every week, and yet the deadlift improves. That can cause a little smoke to come out of the ears. That is confusing upon first glance. That is also the power, the beauty, and the magic of effective, purposeful, designed CrossFit programming. the blending of both science and art, yielding to effective results. And it's also why creating programming is so darn challenging, and in my opinion, to do it well takes a really long time. And I just don't mean some apprenticeship of learning programming. Well, certainly you have to pay your dues there. I just mean creating a week of programming. You just don't scratch it down and hope for the best. I mean, it is a very long process of poring over the details of exactly how the body's moving and where it's been, so that you, even if you didn't quote unquote deadlift that week, magically you're prepared to deadlift later. That's really tough to do. It certainly can be done. We do it all the time in CrossFit, but it's challenging and it takes intention. And that might be the part where is causing Gabriella a bit of a migraine headache as to what happens if I skip this one particular thing. So getting back to our example there, you deadlift every week, you get better at the deadlift. That makes sense because that's what you're doing all the time. You're deadlifting, so you get better at it. If you're powerlifting all the time, you would expect to get better at powerlifting because it's what you're doing all the time. If you run all the time, you would hope to get better at running. Again, fill in the blank. Well, what do we do all the time? We don't just deadlift. We don't just squat. We don't just do burpees. We don't just do pull-ups. We don't just walk on our hands. We don't just fill in the blank. What we do all the time is constantly varied functional movements at high intensity, relatively speaking. That's what we do all the time. So if that's what we do all the time, what would we expect to get good at? Constantly varied functional movements at high intensity. And that may sound like it's corny and it's towing the company line, but I mean the truth is that's the truth. That's what we do, and it works really well. So when we're always doing constantly varied functional moves at high intensity, that gives us a broad scope of capacity that is much more encompassing than potentially what she's referring to as a classic protocol, a more traditional protocol, a more non-CrossFit protocol, where the strike zone is probably a bit more narrow, where, hey, we were going to pull off the ground on this day, and if you miss the pull off the ground day, deadlift or whatever it happens to be, it's going to be a long time for you. You missed it that week. Well, there's a whole bunch of ways, if we're sticking with the deadlift example, that we pull off the ground that may not be a 7x1 deadlift day. And all of those intertwined with everything else that we do on a regular basis develops the musculature needed so that when deadlift day comes around, even if you happen to miss a dedicated deadlift day, unbeknownst to you, you have been working those muscles needed to perform on deadlift day, even though you may have missed it. And that is what might be not readily obvious to somebody not really steeped in kind of what we do and why we do it and how we do it. So, I mean, I lived this life yesterday, for example. So sticking with the deadlift example, yesterday was 7x1 deadlifts. Now, as most people know, I've got an 18-week-old baby. She was born at the end of June. So since the end of June, so 18 weeks, what's that, 4.5 months? I've only missed like 2 or 3 workouts in 18 weeks with a new baby. So it's been a huge success. But a lot of the workouts have been modified, short on time, things of that nature. And one of the biggest things that's taken a hit for me personally since having the baby is the heavy day. Because a true, dedicated, pour your heart and soul into it heavy day, it takes every bit of that hour. It takes a long time to do a general warm-up, then to warm up the lifts, then to get to your working sets, then to give yourself 3 to 4 minutes between 7 sets of one, and then to cool down. It takes a really long time. It's not something you can just rush through. So with the baby, I've missed more of those days than I've hit. Now I've done something on those days. I'll embrace the limited equipment option, the dumbbell option, because I can warm up to lift a pair of 50-pound dumbbells in a lot shorter time domain than I can warm up for a max lift. So I can get to do the workout quicker on the dumbbell days. So I've done a lot of those. But that's not a 7x1 heavy deadlift. So for the last 18 weeks of my life, I scratched this down so I have it in my head. So the baby was born in June. On July 12th, there was a 7x1 deadlift. Missed that one. Did whatever I could that day. Could have been just body weight, could have been some dumbbell work, but I didn't hit a true 7x1. August 17th, did a 5x5 deadlift, missed that one, did dumbbells. On September 22nd, did 5x3 deadlift. I'm not sure if I hit that one or not. Can't remember, to be honest with you. So maybe I got one in. And then I did it yesterday. So that's how sporadic my heavy day deadlifts have been since having the baby 18 weeks ago. However, because of the amazing utility of doing constantly varied functional moves at high intensity, intelligently designed and programmed, yesterday I worked up to and hit a 405-pound deadlift. With that incredibly sporadic deadlift training that I just related to you because of the baby. So even though I haven't been quote-unquote heavy deadlifting as regularly as I would have liked to and would have if I had a normal schedule and we weren't dealing with this baby, I have still been working based upon all the other workouts that we do, my glutes, my hamstrings, my quadriceps, my spinal erectors, my abdominals, my lats, my grip. That never stopped getting worked. So when the heavy deadlift day showed up, I still had a ton of capacity there. And that is maybe what's missed initially with some people not fully understanding how CrossFit programming produces what it produces. And that's honestly what makes it so remarkable and why I'm so enthralled by it. So, and again, there's so many other ways that we get in pulling from the ground, not just deadlift heavy, could be deadlift and metabolic conditioning workout, power cleans, squat snatch, power snatch, dumbbell snatch. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other ways you pull from the ground that aren't necessarily just that one day. And you could play the same game with, and when we're back squatting, you're still strengthening yourself head to toe with the back squat, glutes, hamstrings, spinal erectors, the whole 9 yards. Yes, it's a squat, not a pull from the ground, but you're strengthening the same musculature you need to excel in the deadlift as well. So all of the things that we do when we're training for constantly varied functional moves at high intensity, they're all moving the needle forward. And that's why if you look at a month's worth of training and you happen to miss one day in that month, that the train doesn't get derailed off the tracks. That's the beauty of constantly varied functional moves at high intensity. But that's not just laid out willy-nilly. And also I will say is while ideally you wouldn't have missed whatever that one workout was that you had to skip because life got in the way, while that one workout was programmed intentionally and was programmed because it fit that day and it was programmed for a variety of other reasons that made it the right thing to do on that day, and you miss it, okay? So a month goes by, you miss one workout. It's not like someone's going to be like, well, what happened to Bob? Why is Bob just, his fitness is just in the tank. What happened to Bob? Like, well, he missed the October 16th workout and he just never recovered from it. It's just his whole life's fitness is in shambles right now. Like, it seems silly when you put it in that perspective, but to some degree that's what we're talking about. And this might confuse some folks, but it's worth saying anyway because it's true. More important than that one workout is not going to make or break you. In the grand scheme of things, when we're looking at long-term health and fitness, not short-term, long-term health and fitness, that one workout that you potentially missed isn't as important as the scope of what you're doing, which is well-rounded training with variance. The variance intentionally and deliberately crafted and designed to give you the ebbs and flows and cover all the bases that you need will get you further than that one workout. Variance is a critical factor, and most people benefit more from variance than one specific workout. It's the exposure to all these different things that we do in CrossFit that the human body is not as well understood as a lot of people would want us to believe, that more so than that one workout being the one that made or break you, what's going to benefit you the most is over the course of the entire month or the entire 3 months, the quarter of the year, all the different rep ranges, all the different loadings, all the different modalities, all the different movements that you were exposed to will more than make up the fact that you missed one workout. More than make up for it. And variance, I can't remember if we've done a show on this before or not. Variance was one of the most misunderstood words or concepts in CrossFit for a while. People who were anti-CrossFit would latch onto that word variance and take it to the bank and think that it meant random, that you just throw whatever you want at a wall and that's the workout that you're going to do, that there's no thought process behind it, it's unintentional, it's totally random. Variance does not mean random. Period. End of story. Variance is deliberately and specifically hitting a tremendous different amount of time domains, rep ranges, loadings, movements, all the things, so that you create this beautiful symphony that drives the athlete forward appropriately with just enough stimulus to create adaptation, but not enough to overtrain them. That's the beauty right there. And actually that's why the podcast that Bosman and I do on Beyond the Whiteboard is called Varied, Not Random. Because while each show might be different, each show is intentional and chosen for a reason. So variance does not mean random. So, yeah, hopefully that helps. So go back. I didn't expect to go down that rant. What I wanted to say was Linchpin Conversations number 180 would serve you very well. So go back and check that one out. You tricked me. You tricked me into a longer answer. Okay. Next most upvoted question was from Jake B. And he says that he loved the death by couplet on Monday. So we did death by dumbbell thruster, followed by death by strict pull-up, 5 minutes rest between each. Loved the death by couplet on Monday. Can you talk about the benefits of pairing push and pull movements together in a workout? So, yeah, overly simplified, a classic like push-pull combination, while challenging for sure, allows the athlete ideally to continue to advance forward by taxing some muscle groups while other ones get a quote-unquote rest, so to speak, and then you flip-flop it, so the ones that you just used now get a bit of a break while you use the other ones, and this ideally will help keep the athlete moving forward, keep the intensity a little bit higher, and intensity drives results, so that's a good thing. Classic examples would be like Fran, 21-15-9 thrusters and pull-ups. So you have a barbell movement that is basically a below parallel leg drive to overhead, and then once you put the barbell down, you're not doing a below parallel leg drive, you're doing an upper body unloaded pull gymnastics movement. So those two are a very nice pairing back and forth, and they allow the athlete to keep moving and express a tremendous amount of intensity. Same thing with a classic workout like Diane, deadlifts and handstand push-ups, weighted barbell pull from the ground, glutes and hamstrings midline, paired with, now the athlete's inverted, you're not using those glutes and hamstrings, your legs are just staying extended against the wall, midline is tight and braced, and you're doing a handstand push-up and upper body press. So again, another beautiful push-pull pairing that allows the athlete to kind of keep moving forward, and they're very complementary. A lot of workouts that we do fall into that category because intensity is a good thing. However, the opposite is also true because you have to expose yourself to other things because life has no regard for beautifully pairing non-complementary movements that don't interfere with each other together. Sometimes life will cause tremendous amount of interference, and so it's also necessary to do exactly the opposite and program intentional interference. And even though it may slow the athlete down, even though it may reduce intensity, there is benefit there. Again, for that sake of relating back to what I said, Gabriella's question, variance. Intentionally doing that because you understand the athlete that you're trying to create, that's variance, and that's a good thing, and that's deliberate, and that's not random. An example of that would be at the right time in the programming cycle to put in a workout like JT. Tons of interference. 21-15-9, handstand push-ups, followed by ring dips, followed by push-ups. Just a chest, pec, lat, tricep push, followed by using exactly the same muscle groups for a push, followed by using exactly the same muscle groups for a push. There's a lot of standing around in that workout, a lot of shaking out the arms, a lot of just fatigue setting in where you just have to rest. You couldn't do another rep if you wanted to. Kills the intensity a bit, but that is done for a reason. And again, there's a difference between doing something because of variance and just not knowing what you're doing and then something happened randomly. That's not what you want to do. So, in that blend of movements that are complementary to each other and don't interfere and allow the athlete to keep moving, and then that blend of when to put in intentional interference, and then all the other things that we've talked about, when to go short, when to go long, when to go medium, when to go light, when to go heavy, when to go moderate, when to do whatever. All of that coming together in this synergistic way creates beautiful CrossFit programming. And that kind of somewhat also relates to Gabrielle's question. So, glad you liked that, Jake. Let's see, next most upvoted question was from Melanie. Melanie, where are you? Here we go. Was there an athlete, male or female, that you hadn't met before but got a chance to meet this weekend? So what she's referring to is this last weekend I was lucky enough to be a part of the broadcast team for the 2021 Rogue Invitational. It was awesome. It was truly awesome. If you get to go to a Rogue Invitational, you should. Fun event, fun venue, just great. So for Melanie's question, was there an athlete I hadn't met before but got a chance to meet? I've actually never met Medeiros in person, so I just wanted to tell him congratulations and shake his hand, but it never worked out. So I don't think so, to be honest with you. This is not supposed to come off as mean or harsh. I like watching the athletes and whatnot, that's fun, but I don't have a strong desire to there's not somebody that I'm dying to meet, let me put it that way. Who I actually was looking forward to meeting and I did not get the opportunity is not one of the CrossFit athletes, but it's one of the strongmen that were competing that weekend, Brian Shaw. My son, our 12-year-old Deacon, he is I don't know how he got into it, beats me, but he's a Brian Shaw fan, strongman fan, loves Brian Shaw, and when he found out that Brian Shaw was going to be at this event, he begged me to try to get his autograph, which I desperately wanted to do, but it just didn't work out. I mean, broadcast is a very demanding long day. You're there early doing rehearsals and prepping, and you're there late doing the close-up shows, and then you're on doing hits all day long. So there's not a lot of free time, so I was just never in the same place with free time as he was, so I never got to go up, make an introduction, and ask. But I would have liked meeting him, 4-time world's strongest man. He's 6'8" tall, I think 405 pounds, 410 pounds. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. So it would have been really cool to just, I would have got my picture taken next to him for sheer comedic purposes, just to see how diminutive I would look. But yeah, I would have liked to do that. I got to catch up with Tia afterwards, talk to her for about 15 minutes. She did amazing and all that stuff, as you would expect. I didn't get to see Annie Thorisdottir. Our paths didn't cross, but I would have liked to said congratulations to her. Just so impressive after having her baby last year, how quickly she's come back to be just again a dominant force. But our paths didn't cross for that. Got to say hi to Ben Smith. Our paths did bump into him. But yeah, other than that, it was just at the desk working. Okay. Next question is from Ashley S. Where are you? Hold on, I'm scrolling. Ashley S. Here we go. Okay. Favorite events from the Rogue Invitational. Did any athletes surprise you with their performance, be it good or bad? Ooh. Well, I'll tell you, I'm probably not going to talk about any, bad performances. That's always one of the toughest things to do, actually, as a commentator or analyst. It's necessary, obviously. That's just how sports work. Athletes perform in the field. Commentators give their thoughts. But it always sucks to have to, I'm not on the field competing. I know they're down there. They tried their heart and soul to do well. It didn't go well. Then I'm comfortably standing behind a desk, not having exerted myself, saying why somebody didn't do something well. So every now and then when I have to do that, I will to make an interesting broadcast and get fans excited, but it's never pleasant. So for this, we'll stick to some good stuff. So let's see. Favorite events from the Rogue Invitational. I really liked the Echo Burner. I liked the Echo Burner a lot. So the Echo Burner, I want to say it was event number 3, but it was 20 thrusters at 115 or 75 pounds, 40 cows on the bike, 32 for women, and then another 20 thrusters. So thruster, bike, thruster. Nowhere to hide, just dirty pain cave workout. And I love workouts like that. And I liked it because it was very reminiscent in my mind to Linchpin Test 14, which is 15 clean and jerks at 135 or 95, 30 cals on the bike, 30 or 20 cals on the bike, and then 15 more clean and jerks, 135, 95. So as soon as I saw the Echo Burner, it immediately brought Linchpin Test 14 in my head, and I liked it right away. It's a great, great workout. I also liked event number 7 for the CrossFit athletes, the duel. I thought the duel was really cool, and that was 60 double unders with a heavy rope, 3 squat snatches, 205 for men, 145 for women, and then had to load a sandbag onto a pedestal. And I think the sandbag weighed 250 pounds for the men and 165 for the women. It was a fast and furious event. People doing that in sub 1 minute. And high stress on the athlete side, because in such a short event where it's so tight, a couple trips on the rope could cost you everything. One missed snatch could cost you everything. You fumble with that heavy bag, it falls off the pedestal, could cost you everything. So they needed to be accurate, they needed to be fit, they needed to be strong, they needed to perform well under pressure, and they had to do it quick. And I thought it was a really cool event, and they did it bracket style, where the field kept narrowing and narrowing and narrowing until you were left with, as the name says, the duel. Just 2 people going head to head. So I thought that was really great. Pardon me. I also really liked on the women's side how Annie Thorisdottir was in the lead going into the final day of competition. Now, I'm sure that wasn't fun on Tia's side, because she is the reigning multiple time fittest woman in the world, has won the Rogue Invitational multiple times. I can't imagine what that pressure is like. Everyone expects her to win everything that she does. And I don't know if she's talked about that, but I just have to assume that pressure is not fun to live under, really. And so now going into the final day of competition, she's not in the lead. Of course, that was the big story. Nobody with gold medals around their necks wants to have the big story be about how they are not in the position that most people thought they would be. Well, so again, while probably stressful, or whatever the proper word is on the athlete side of the house, from the fans, I think that made for a very exciting kickoff to the final day of competition. And it all came down to the final event. If Annie had bested Tia on the final event, Annie would have won the Rogue Invitational. Now that's a really tough event to beat Tia on, with as talented as she is, with 3 touch-and-go snatches at that loading. But still, it made for a very exciting final day of competition. And the other one, Gabriela Migala, I thought also was impressive, taking 3rd place. Legit. 100% legit. She's a real deal, and so I'm curious to watch her for the rest of the year. Bjorgvin Carl Gudmundsson took 4th place. That guy is sneaky capable. I don't even want to insult him by saying sneaky. It shouldn't be sneaky that he's capable, but he's such a quiet, almost under the radar guy that he's just doing what he's doing. You don't quite notice it, and suddenly he's just there. He's on the cusp of the podium. So BKG was as capable as always. And then what I will close with before we do the linchpin shoutouts was on the strongman side of the house. I loved watching some of those events. I thought they were really fun. And the one that I really enjoyed, well, there's a bunch I enjoyed, but I liked event number 4. I'll give that a special shout out. And that was called the Yoke Carry to Overhead Log Lift Medley. It's a long name. Yoke Carry to Overhead Log Lift Medley. Basically what they had was a yoke for them to carry, to walk with. The yoke weighed 1,000 pounds. They had to bring it out with a forklift. So they placed this yoke out there. It weighs 1,000 pounds. The event is, for time, 3, 2, 1, go. How fast can you walk 50 feet with a 1,000 pound yoke on your body? Once you put that down, I'm going to assume your central nervous system is now on a 5-alarm fire. There is a log, so crazy odd object, not a barbell, but a log that weighs 360 pounds, 360, and you have to get that from the ground to overhead 3 times. If you successfully do that, the clock stops. So 50-foot yoke carry, 3 log, ground overhead with a 360-pound log. There's a couple people that couldn't do it, couldn't get the log overhead 3 times after how taxing lifting the yoke was and all that good stuff. The individual that won it, Mateusz Kaliszkowski, did all of that work in 40 seconds. 40 seconds. He moved a 1,000-pound yoke 50 feet and then put that log, that 360-pound log, over his head 3 times. And he didn't even clean it to the shoulder or kind of push press it. Once he lapped it and it was in the hip area, he basically just hang power snatched it to over his head and then dropped it and did it 2 more times. I was just I didn't know that somebody could do that with a 360-pound log. That's ridiculous. So it was pretty amazing watching those guys. Okay, let's do the 5 screenshots that I have as some linchpin shoutouts. I forgot to name them, so I'll just call them up here. Oh, okay, this is cool. This is from the recent deadlifts. This is from Mike T. So he says, I know that I've said this before, but I had never deadlifted before in 43 years on planet Earth until May of 2020. So May 5, 6, about a year and a half ago-ish. So he had never deadlifted in his entire life till a year and a half ago. And now, today, or yesterday on the 7x1 deadlift, he got a 1 rep max of 300 pounds. How cool is that? From never deadlifting in your entire life to now he's got a 300-pound deadlift. So, linchpin is awesome. Mike, congrats to you. That is legit. Okay, next one. This one's just a shout out and warm wishes. Paul S. has been keeping us updated through the Facebook group. In the hospital, he's had his gallbladder out, had some surgery, went well. Paul, we're with you there. Warm wishes. Keep us updated. And take your recovery seriously. Don't be in too much of a rush to get back. We want you healthy. Okay, this one's cool. From Brian M. He says, I finally hit my 200 kilogram deadlift goal. Why am I thinking that is 440? Sorry for my American math. 200 times 2.2. Yes, 440. So he finally hit a 200 kilogram or 440 pound deadlift that he had a goal. He set that goal back in 2019 and he had a lower back operation as well. So he's always hesitant to go heavy and spent a lot of time building up, and now he's super stoked. So that is awesome, Brian, from coming back from a lower back injury in 2019 or surgery, you said, lower back operation, and now pulling 440 pounds. Okay, 2 more. This one from Jojo L. After listening to the Varied Not Random podcast, episode 24, which was all about deadlifts, Boswin and I dove into those, I felt encouraged to switch it up and do a sumo stance for the deadlift. Always fun, enjoyed herself. So super cool. So she tried a little bit of variance. Again, variance is a wonderful thing. And in a sumo stance, she worked up to 110 kilos. Legit. Well done. Final one. Final linchpin shoutout from Ashley S., who also asked a question today. I am absolutely floored, she says. My all-time 1 rep max deadlift was 235 pounds. At that point in time, I was training a lot and lifting heavy a lot. I have not been consistent whatsoever lately. However, I was able to move 205 pounds like butter. And she put like butter in all caps, which leads me to believe that 205 felt phenomenal. That is totally wild to me and fires me up. So how great is that? What Ashley just experienced in real life is directly related to Gabriella's first question. Ashley literally just said, training's been inconsistent, been missing some things. You know, didn't have the time in my schedule to lift heavy all this time. And now all of a sudden, boom, pulling 205 like butter. Exactly, because when you're doing intelligently programmed, constantly varied function moves at high intensity, and you're getting in most of the workouts, some wonderful things are going to happen to your fitness that would confuse somebody classically trained. But CrossFit delivers the goods. So, that's it. I don't know if everybody could hear that, but about a minute ago, perfect timing, my little baby just started screaming, so that obviously means she's woken up from her nap. She's not making noise at the moment, so I think Emily walked in there, or she put herself back to sleep. I hope it's the second one. I'm going to go check on that right now. But that's it. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and we will talk more later.